Welcome back. All right, so the second preview for today, we're going to talk about the Ottawa Senators. Ottawa, of course, coming off of another disappointing season. And the thing is that I was optimistic about them going into last season, and then they weren't good. There were a lot of reasons. There were a lot of mitigating circumstances. They are one of the teams that got hit when everything got shut down, and they were playing without a lot of players. Ottawa also is they're learning. You know, a lot of young guys learning their positions and all that. But it feels like this year should be different. And the channel vote seems to indicate that there's some cautious optimism, and that's where I'm at. Much like I've said about the Canucks for the last year or so, I'm cautiously optimistic. So for Ottawa, the last 5 years have been quite the challenge, and I understand why the fan base has had issues at times with ownership, with management, with decisions that were being made. But it feels like things should get better this year, and that frustration should go by the wayside. Not to mention the reality that they could be getting a new building not too far down the road. A new building would go a long way to fixing some of the issues with the Ottawa Senators organization. 2017-2018. This is the year after they went to the Final Four in 2017, and it is a severe disappointment, and they go right into that rebuild. 28, 43, and 11, 25th in goal scoring, 30th in goals against. And of course, this is where the arguments of Eugene Melnyk and everything come in. I will say this, Melnyk was saying they would be spending money at this point. This is where, during that start of the rebuild, he basically mapped it out. And the year we're going into, 2022-2023, was when he said unprecedented success, and he said he'd be opening up his checkbook. So, for kids watching, there used to actually be checkbooks. You could actually write a check. We used to actually write with pens. Anyways, 2018, 2019, golden age, I tell you. 29, 47, and 6 was the record in 2018, 2019. This is when they're in the rebuild officially. 18th in goals for, 31st in goals against. Keeping the puck out of their net has been a problem throughout. And whether it's on the blue line that the issues lie, whether it's been goaltending at times where the issue's been, the reality is this team doesn't keep the puck out of its net often enough, and that's something that definitely needs to change. Sorry for the pauses, allergies. 2019-2020, they finished 25, 34, and 12. So, I mean, it's not as bad as it could be. 24th in goals for and 30th in goals against. So they weren't last in goals against. 2020, 2021, in the Canadian division, they finished 23, 28, and 5. And at points during that season, they looked good, especially towards the end. They finished the season pretty strong. They end up 19th in goals for and 27th in goals against. This past season, they finished 33, 42, and 7, 26th in goals for, 22nd in goals against. That's their best goals against mark. The 26th in goals for is the lowest they've been in the NHL during this rebuild. But they ended the season well. They were 10, 5, and 1 in April. And the problem is, that as much as I want to say, hey, look, they ended the season strong, this is going to be a good team, they did that last season too. The previous season, that same thing happened. So, their worst month was November. They were 1, 10, and 1. Yes, that will sink your playoff hopes. And that's just the reality. I know it's an 82-game season, but if you're cheering for a team and they're 1, 10, and 1 in November, you can basically not have to worry about who they're going to play in the playoffs that year. The exits list is relatively long. Not a lot of key guys, though. Connor Brown, they'll miss. They'll miss Connor Brown. I think Washington fans are really going to like his play. They're going to miss him on the PK. Without Connor Brown and Nick Paul, that we'll see what that does to their penalty kill, which was actually pretty strong this past season. Zach Sanford, Chris Tierney, Adam Gaudette, Philip Gustafson in net. Young goaltender that they made that move because they felt like Talbot was an upgrade. Of course, they traded Matt Murray and his contract to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Victor Mete, they did not give him a qualifying offer. As far as I know, he's still a UFA. And so that makes room for the new faces. The new faces include, I don't know why I didn't have Cam Talbot, but we'll put Cam Talbot up. So Cam Talbot, Alex DeBrincat comes in from Chicago. That's a huge boost for their attack. Claude Giroux, that should be a boost for their attack as well. And for the leadership in that locker room, that's a little bit more support for Captain Brady Tkachuk. Jace Hawryluk comes back. He is back now with the Senators. I liked him in Ottawa, And so we'll see if that chemistry is still there for him. And then there's the kids. And you've got to think that at least one forward and probably one defenseman gets a regular job. So Jake Sanderson, he's the favorite to win a job out of training camp. He may end up being top 4 on the blue line. The projection's not there yet, but I think he ends up top 4. Jacob Bernard Docker, who got into some games last year. There's a split among the pundits on whether or not he needs more time in the AHL or whether or not he's ready. So we'll see this year whether or not he's ready. And then, of course, you have Robbie Yerventi coming off of a very good World Juniors, as is Ridley Gregg, who, of course, got injured towards the end of the World Juniors. That injury is not supposed to keep him out of training camp. And I think with Gregg, with the all-around game he plays, he could be useful top 6 or bottom 6. I don't think it matters where he plays. I think he helps them. And, of course, as I mentioned, Cam Talbot, who is one half of the tandem in net, along with Anton Forsberg. I am so happy for Anton Forsberg that after a couple of years of him bouncing around and getting waived all the time, that stopped, and he has found himself a home. So I'm glad that Forsberg has finally found himself a home with the Ottawa Senators. Now, down the middle, this is an interesting 1 through 4, and again, this is from Cap Friendly. We'll see if this is how it works out. Josh Norris, who had a fantastic year. Tim Stützle, who had a really rough first half, excellent second half. I know when I've been doing the redrafts, I saw some alarm that I had Stützle as high as I did. Stützle had an amazingly good, I thought, second half of the season. His game really came together. And it is, he's going into his 3rd season. I think he's shown he's a top 6 forward in the NHL. I really like his game. But I understand if you just look at the numbers, you would say, oh, I don't understand why he's drafted here. Because I think Stützle is a keeper, and I think he's already broken through. Thus, I don't have him as a breakthrough candidate. I didn't have him as a breakthrough candidate on the breakthrough video I did either. Shane Pinto. Pinto's really interesting because he missed last season, mostly. I don't think... Would he play a handful of games? But Pinto is an interesting one. If he's healthy, if he's good to go, I really like them down the middle, and then Gambrell would be that 4th-line center. So, this is going to be a good young group that's going to grow together. The channel vote is somewhat optimistic compared to what we normally see with the Ottawa Senators. 3% on both channels voted for them to be 1st or 2nd. 40% of the Hockey Channel, 42% on the Entertainment Channel say that they're going to finish 3rd or 4th. So 43% on the main channel, 45% on the other are optimistic that the Sens are going to be top 4. Doesn't necessarily mean playoffs if you think that 5 teams in the Metro are going to make it, but it is a good... I mean, if they end up top 4, they'll be quite happy. 5th or 6th, 49%. So about half on the Hockey Guy channel vote for 5th or 6th, and 46% on the other. 11% on the main channel vote 7th or 8th for the Ottawa Senators, and 8% on the Entertainment Guy. So it is a little bit split there. 24,000 plus votes. Thank you guys so much for voting en masse on the main channel, and 900 on the Entertainment Guy. Not bad. So, yeah, and again, that shows that even though you've got about 25 times more votes on this side, the numbers still come out very, very similar. The Stanley Cup odds, plus 5,000. So you put down 100 on the Senators, you lose your $100. They're not winning the Stanley Cup this year. I'm fine with making that prediction. Cap space. They do have cap space. Now, one thing to remember when a young team has cap space, and pundits immediately say, oh, they should, and I think of Colorado here. Florida on some level too. Well, they have cap space, so why don't they just go out and get these players? You have to look ahead. You have to look at the fact that you're going to need to extend these kids. You're going to need to give them contracts. Bridge contracts, those 2 years where you might get them for a little bit cheaper, can be dangerous. You're better off trying to sign them for the longer term, but that's more expensive. So that cap space is nice, but you need to make sure that if you're Pierre Dorian, you're looking ahead and saying, okay, if I bring this player in, does that hurt me next season? So we'll see what happens. Maybe Ottawa will be picking up rentals at the deadline. Their top 4 defense, and again, this could end up being wildly, crazily wrong. And this is why I'm using the depth chart from Cap Friendly. I'm glad I'm not making my own depth charts, to be honest. Looking at all this, and I realized how much of a headache it was to try to figure out depth charts, because no matter what I did, there would still be somebody saying, well, that guy's on the wrong side. Well, he won't play with him, and then that becomes the focus for people. But the top four, again, cap-friendly, saying Chabot and Hamonic on the top two, Brandstrom and Zub as the second two. Artem Zub is an underrated defenseman. Hamonic fit in very well in Ottawa. Really gave Ottawa the kind of leadership in defense that I think they wanted in Vancouver. Chabot is a horse. He will play 30 minutes in a game and look fresh in overtime. Absolutely ridiculous. The stamina, the amount of energy that kid has. And Brandstrom is due for some sort of a breakthrough. He had no goals last year. He had 14 assists. If Brandstrom ends up fighting his way into that top four, his numbers should come up. And I picked Parker Kelly as a breakthrough candidate because I like his work ethic, and it feels like there should be more goals and points at the NHL level as his career goes along. But that top four defense, I expect to be completely different. I do expect Jake Sanderson to get in there, and we'll see who else might get in that top four. It could end up being a very young top four, which bodes well for their future. Their coach is still DJ Smith. I do wonder how much further DJ Smith goes. If Ottawa gets off to a slow start, is DJ Smith's job in trouble? Pierre Dorion, general manager. It's funny because 4 years ago there was a lot of complaints about Dorion. I don't think those complaints are there anymore. He's done a very good job with this rebuild. And again, he gets a lot of credit, and people want to talk about the departed Eugene Melnyk as having been what held the team back. And on some level, yes, but at this point, that wouldn't have been a problem. I think they would have got Giroux signed. That was something that Dorion actually talked to Eugene Melnyk about years ago, saying that Giroux, being from around the area, bring him home when that contract's done. Their leader in goals this past season was Josh Norris with 35. Brady Tkachuk had 30 to finish second on the team. Tkachuk has the ability to hit 40, so does Norris. That 35 goals feels like it's just a preview of what's to come with Josh Norris. Assist leaders, Brady Tkachuk had 37 and Tim Stützle had 36. And again, if you go through the stats throughout the season for Stützle, he had these large areas where he was having trouble with scoring, and then I think he figured it out. This season will show whether he has or hasn't. Special teams, their power play, 19.3%. Doesn't feel like it's that long ago that I would do reviews of Ottawa Senators games, and what would I say? The Senators get a power play, it's unsuccessful because it sucks. And I said that game after game after game multiple times in a review because it was flirting with single digits. That power play is now pretty good. Their penalty kill's good as well, 80.3%. And I think those are reasons, too, to look at their overall numbers and say, you know what, they're due for that turnaround. Now, expiring contracts, Austin Watson has an expiring contract. Jace Hawryluk comes in on a one-year deal. Cam Talbot comes in. So the nice thing for Sens fans this year, too, Talbot's in a contract year. So he may have a big year because he may be looking for a big contract. Plus, you've got a Cam Talbot coming in who's probably got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because he was replaced by Marc-Andre Fleury in Minnesota, and he may want to prove them wrong for not having that faith in him. Travis Hamonic, Artem Zub, and Nick Holden also with expiring contracts. And Holden may end up getting top 4 minutes as well. Or maybe DJ Smith splits the minutes evenly among the top 6, other than Chabot that plays 30 minutes no matter what. Zub, I would think, of those 3 defensemen on expiring contracts is the most important one for Ottawa to get signed. But the Senators, it has happened. They've become one of the more interesting teams to look at going into the season. A team that 3 years ago we would look at and go, well, they're not going to make it. They're just in the rebuild. They're trying to get that number 1 draft pick. They don't get a number 1 draft pick during this rebuild, but it feels like now they don't need it. They have so many prospects. I could have filled up, if I was just going through prospects that might make it, I could have filled up a second column. There are definitely other guys who may make the roster. And it'll be interesting to see if they do bring in a lot of youth, how does that affect things? If they don't, how good could their AHL team be? Just throwing that out there. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.